TG Geeks, episode 293, September 28th, 2020. The Last Sun again. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre. You name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane. We're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
Let's get on with this.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the two gay geeks are discussing this.
Well, we have something very interesting, kind of unusual for us to do.
A bit of a departure.
But we are kind of doing not a best of, but a best of. It's, we're running an interview that we did previously, and everybody will be familiar, or people that have listened to the show will be very familiar with this author that we're going to talk to, K.D. Edwards. Mm-hmm. This was his very first interview that he ever did.
Right, and we're running it because
he has another book coming out, and we're just really fond of his writing and his work. He's got Tarot 3 working on it right now.
And he's always getting new readers.
Yep.
Constantly. The last time we chatted with him, he mentioned how he was still getting new readership. You know, he'd go to Goodreads, go to Amazon. He's always seeing new people looking at his very first book. So why not? For those people who have not heard him speak before on the first book, why not rerun the interview?
Absolutely. And then we have some shortened birthday shout-outs, our podcast of the week, and a little bit of feedback and regular shout-outs, and we'll just keep on going. So let's get on with this show. And this time we have a really special guest, a first-time author, well, not writer, but
he's an author
of an actual book, and it is K.D. Edwards, author of The Last Sun. What an incredible book. It has not been released yet, but
we got advance copies.
I am so excited about this. Welcome to the show, Keith.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so tell us who is K.D. Edwards, and how did you come up with this, how did you get into the writing business, and then we'll talk about the book.
Oh, God, I'm one of those people who, as far back as I can remember, from just when I was reading, picture books, I wanted to be a writer. It's literally nothing but my dream to get to this point. But it was kind of a long process to get here. And this is my first published novel, though I've been writing off and on for many years now. And it's just been kind of a dream so far. Going through the process of, for a long time, I thought that maybe I would take the self-publishing route, but my friends convinced me to go ahead and send my novel to an agent. And everything has fallen in place like a dream. Getting the agent, finding a publisher on my first go-around, signing a 2-book contract. So that's a bit of where I am. As for who K.D. Edwards is, since that's my pen name, I guess he can be whoever I want him to be. So I'm kind of excited about building that personality too.
well,
God.
I mean, yeah. I mean, a little background into who you are. We can stay with your pen name, but what have you done in your life that has brought you to writing and considering that as a career?
Oh man, I think everything. I just one of those people who didn't really come. I'm in human resources right now, and I work for the University of North Carolina, and getting to this point of figuring out my profession during the day was HR. It took me a long time. I'm one of those people who came to his career later in life, but before them, I couldn't even remember all the jobs I've had. I went from worked in publishing for a while, was a legal assistant in an international bank, become a paralegal, became a diversity consultant, worked for interactive television well before the days of what we consider interactive now. Worked as a GIS mapper for the Forest Service, worked in a regional department store, worked on the regional department store regional team. I've touched on everything. Worked for startup companies that created bariatric furniture.
Wow.
I was very much a jack of all trades.
I was going to say, you invented the term.
Yeah, exactly. So have you ever been in the restaurant business?
I did actually. One of the jobs
Nuts.
I had, mercifully short, was Starbucks. I was a Starbucks store manager for about 9 months. Pretty much, it was one of the most embarrassing job I've ever had. Turns out I'm not a very good food retail manager type of person, but it was part of the chain that really got me to this point. So I don't regret anything.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I've done a little bit of everything, but for the last 20 years, I've been in the healthcare industry. So
ditto.
It's kind of interesting how I never dreamed that I would be in healthcare or be doing what we're doing Ben and I are doing right now. It's just, I didn't think that was what I was going to do when I grew up.
I didn't know what I was going to. So, grown up, I'm still working on that one.
Yeah. So
no, landing where I am now is probably just the best job I've ever had. Working for any university system, it's a job where you can really kind of go home at the end of the day and feel like you're doing something worthwhile. I mean, there's a lot of value in my job and its mission and what it does with higher education in the state. So I'm ridiculously lucky between, having a hobby that pays me money that I enjoy doing in the evening and having a job I love during the day.
That's incredible.
Nice.
So we're really kind of here to talk about The Last Son. Now, this is really kind of an odd thing that the way we wound up talking to you here was simply a retweet or a response to a tweet that we had been tagged in. And your Twitter profile and everything, it sounded interesting, the premise. I mean, you kind of have a very short premise of the book on your Twitter profile, or I believe you did at that time anyway. Mm-hmm. And I just reached out to you, and it's like, oh my gosh, this has been a wild ride.
Oh, that's an understatement.
Yeah, to be able to be in contact with you and then get an advanced reading copy of this book. And I assume we can say that, but
absolutely.
And I'm telling you, I was engrossed from the first page. I've read it. I've read it twice now.
Yeah, this book is one of the best things that I have read in years, and I am not blowing smoke. It just knocked me for a loop, and I was just like wrecked when I got to the last page.
Yeah, you guys, this is all a new experience for me. Just figuring out, how people find out about my book and connecting with them on social media. And I can't thank you enough for what you're saying. It's really building my self-confidence.
Well, I tell you,
releasing a book into the wild is a huge thing. I think there's one author who described it as it's like raising a child and then opening the door and putting the child out in the front yard and then, watching as wolves descend on them. Yeah. You have no idea what to expect from this point, whether, what you thought of the book is what other people are going to think, whether the beta feedback you got was accurate or not. It's just such a gamble. And so far, the experience has been incredibly worthwhile because of people like you. So,
well, for someone to be a first-time author and to put something out of that kind of quality, I mean, I had to keep like slapping myself and thinking, I'm not reading the works of somebody who's been at the writing business and publishing books for years.
But it seems like it.
But it feels like it.
Exactly. It really does. I mean, I was so impressed with everything about it, your storytelling, the world itself, which I want to ask some questions about.
Oh, God,
if you
many
can tell,
questions.
But, obviously, based on what happens in this first book you're probably not going to be free with a lot of details, but
especially since it's not out yet.
Yeah, especially since it's not out. But how did you come up with this concept? I guess that was
my next question.
I think it's anyone who tells you that they can just sit down in front of a computer and write a story and expect it to go well. It's, there aren't many people who can do something like that. I think like a lot of published writers, they work their butts off. I would say it was about, 5 or 7 years ago now where I really kind of looked in the mirror and said, I have the day job I love, and now it's time to spend some time on my dream job, which is writing. And I set about learning. This is the story I'm writing now, and I'm obviously happy to talk about it and what I have planned for the rest of the series. This is the book that I wanted to write, but I knew that I wasn't at the point to write it about 5 years ago. So I've got several manuscripts sitting in a drawer that will never, ever, ever see the light of day. I really spent a few years doing nothing but practicing how to write novels before I even tried to do something like this. The Last Son it's a complicated story in the sense of it has very deep world building elements. The relationship between the characters and especially their banter and their dialogue, it's almost like comic timing. And
it is.
I worked very, very hard to get to the point where I kind of looked at my computer screen and said, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm ready to tell Brune and Bran's story. I've always been attracted to the genre kind of changes. A few years back, people would use the phrase urban fantasy to describe it. And I've always called it modern fantasy, which is taking the world as we know it and just adding some creepy and strange and surreal things around the corner. And it's always been the type of story I've been attracted to do something with incredibly visual, deep world building. Well, I guess that's kind of the overview about it. I mean, it is the first in a series. I have 9 novels planned. I am an incredibly detailed outliner. If you talk with writers, they'll explain you have some people who aren't very good with outlines and just sit in front of a computer and sees what flows out them. For me, outlines have already worked, and I have incredibly comprehensive outlines.
Yeah.
Even the novel I'm working on now, usually novels I think kind of come in around 100,000 words, and when I started writing book 2 of Tarot Sequence, I started with a 40,000 word outline. And literally that's just the outline of the story. And for me, that's how it works. So it gives me the perspective of knowing what I want each story to be for a 9-book series, God willing, that I'll get the chance to tell. And also to build elements of what happens in the future into Easter eggs that are in this novel. And I think that's one of the things I have most fun with the story.
Right.
Trying to hide some things that become incredibly relevant down the road.
Forcing people to have to go back and read past books. Oh, I see how you're working this. You're sly.
Absolutely, because on the second read, there were a couple of things that I picked up. It's like, oh, I see now.
I remember Robert Jordan. He writes these incredibly long fantasy novels, and in his very first novel, he had this prophetic sequence where a character has all these flashes of images, and sure enough, every one of those images becomes relevant for that entire exhaustive series. And I always love playing around with that idea.
Right. So I assume that you did some significant research on tarot and whatever.
Well, I kind of want to back up. I want to back up just a little bit because this is a fascinating story. I mean, everything revolves around the tarot deck. I mean, you've got all the different thrones. You got your son. And there's others, all sorts of characters that are all represented in the tarot deck. Where did you get this idea to develop an entire fantasy series based on the tarot?
Well, and they're Atlanteans too.
Well, yeah, and now throwing Atlantis on top of that. I mean, wow. Where are you pulling that out of?
I had a friend who cornered me once, and he's like, "But what research did you do on Atlantis before you wrote it?" It's kind of a myth.
I heard the name and knew the history.
It sounded really cool.
I think that as a writer, one of the things that you always want to do is you want to create your own system or your own world and your own world building and your own system of magic, at least as a fantasy writer. So while I definitely have always been invested in the concept of the tarot cards, I love doing tarot card readings. I think they're a great tool for meditation. I think they're colorful and rich and deep in meaning. And I suppose at one point I thought, wow, wouldn't this be a good framework for a story? And so that became the backbone for this system of magic in this story. And Atlantis and the idea of, in general, lost cultures and lost civilizations has always kind of attracted me. The element of the unknown, I think, people can always pull something from it. There's a reason that lost civilizations are mythologies that endure, because it's as broad and deep as your own imagination, imagining what it must have been like.
Exactly.
So between those two elements, and also, obviously Atlantis, like I said, doesn't exist. You can't, get a train ticket and go and visit it. So it afforded me a lot of latitude in creating what I wanted to do for the
You
city.
bet.
And all the pieces just came together. The idea that it takes place after decades after Atlantis has been revealed to the world, which happened in the 60s, when space exploration really took off, and they were able to see through the spells that had shrouded the island for millennia from space, and realize that there was a big honking island in the middle of the North Atlantic.
Oh, this is a nice little backstory.
It is. I started the novel. It has like a 3-page prologue. And one of the only things that I had a charmed experience working with my editor and my agent both. There's very little that they had me change. One of the things they asked for is to remove the prologue. And they asked for so little, I went ahead and did that because they wanted the reader to get immersed in the stories and learn about the civilization as the novel went on. But there is a backstory to it. And this takes place decades after Atlantis was revealed. And when it was revealed, humanity responded by, firing missiles at them, essentially. And there was a war. And this takes place after the Atlantis homeland has been destroyed, and the Atlanteans are refugees and essentially take over the island of Nantucket. And a process which they call outwardly the settlement of Nantucket, but internally called the unsettlement of Nantucket, because they've been steadily buying real estate for decades as a backup plan if they ever needed to relocate. And they created this, staggering city called New Atlantis by translocating or teleporting abandoned human ruins from across the world. So for me, when you talk about research, it's not so much that I did research on tarot decks or on Atlantis, but I have done exhaustive research on human ruins and making those part of the backdrop.
Well,
Absolutely.
It's more than that.
Yeah, the way you describe some of them and the history that you give of some of those buildings is, but I'm one of those people and that has to know the details.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, I remember reading about there's one particular building. I'm not going to go into too much detail here for the interview, but yeah, there was one particular building that is referenced, and then there's all this history that surrounds it. And I just remembered at one point I literally put the book down and I just thought, when did he have time to research all of this? Because if he did, he would have no time to write.
Oh, it's so much fun, though. That's one of my favorite parts. The novel I'm working on now, The Hangman, I spent a year researching battleships for one chapter in that book.
Wow.
And for me, that's just like, that's one of the best parts of writing.
Yeah.
To do that research and feel you're somewhat of an expert, or at least knowledgeable, and to somehow translate that on a page. And especially with those building descriptions in The Last Sun, it's a challenge because that's not part of the dialogue in the scene. That's what I call standalone exposition. And to make those interesting to a reader and not feel like an info dump, that's a challenge for any writer. And I think that's one of the things that's been most rewarding in the sense of the feedback I've gotten from people that they have been interested to read that.
Oh,
yeah. It can be tricky because this is a first person book. I mean, it's all being told from the point of view of Rune.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting. Now, I love stories where I'm just immediately thrown in and, kind of go for it and then get all of the little details. And Ben is kind of the other way around.
I'm the other way around. I mean, and that's why I would have loved the prologue myself.
I'm thinking about posting it actually either on my website, or they had given me the option of making it an appendix, and I could kick myself. I should have gone back and taken them up on it, but I think I'm definitely going to work it into the novel 2. I think by the time novel 2 comes along, that's a good point to talk more about the history.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm sure there's a great point where we could actually kind of, from Rune's perspective, or in the midst of a conversation with somebody, we get that little bit of a backstory as to why things are the way they are with the Atlanteans. I mean, not that I really need it now, because I'm more engrossed in some of the things that are happening now and what will be happening to our characters down the road. But Keith is right. I'm not one of these big fans personally of being thrown right into the middle of the mix.
He wants the world building to happen.
I like the world building to happen
before we are thrown into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, but the one thing that
a la Dune, Alan Smithy version.
Oh well, we have another. We're friends with another writer named Jeannie Koch. She's currently in Atlantis, and I wouldn't mind putting the two of you together because I think you two could have just lots to talk about. And she's one of the other authors that has just written one of the greatest series that I've ever read. But her world building, it all starts with her books. It's very present day. It's very normal. It's very mundane. And then the world building happens right from page one. With Last Son, yeah, we are kind of thrown into it, but it was Keith's reaction. It was the fact that he was so engrossed in this. And I thought, okay, there's got to be something to this. I've got to persevere because, I have to get over my own limitations in order to be able to appreciate this. And once I started to kind of, wrap my head around some of the details, then I found the mystery to be uniquely compelling.
That's good to hear.
Well, it also helps that you wrote some of the most awesome characters ever.
Yeah.
I have fun with those characters. They're my alter egos.
Well, and I'm going to throw something out here, and if somebody doesn't know and picks the book up, then they're going to find out anyway. But you introduce a gay element to this, and it's so subtle and it's just matter of fact.
It's just there.
It's just there, and it's not a big thing. And I thought it was fabulous.
I did too.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say I did too. I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm just so proud of my publisher that was never a thing. I mean, to the point where after they first wanted to make the offer, and then made an offer for 2 books, the first 2 novels in the series, like I actually had to call back and ask them if they were worried about the fact that the main character identified as gay. I mean, it didn't come up in the conversation. Everything was about what they loved about the story and the relationships and the setting. And I was the one who had to introduce that element. But that's my goal as a writer. There are certain urban fantasy stories, modern fantasy stories that I adore. And I've got to say that a lot of the gay literature out there, the focus is on being gay.
Right.
It's a strong part of the plot. And what I want to do is I want to write these mainstream, mysteries and sci-fi stories and young adult novels with main characters who just happen to be gay. That it's just another element of the story. It is not the element of the story. And Pyre gave me the opportunity to tell the story. And as I said, this is my goal. With this series and with the other novels I want to write in different series, I always want the characters. I want young gay and lesbian people to see themselves in the story.
Yeah.
I want them to see themselves reflected in it.
Oh, I did.
Absolutely.
Totally.
I'm going to give away a little bit of the
are you going to do a spoiler?
Review that I read.
Oh, your review.
Wrote that will come out in conjunction with this interview. But I thought this was so wonderful. And I said that he goes on a quest, and it's not unlike a Dungeons and Dragons quest, only with cars and cell phones.
Oh, I know.
I thought it so sums up the book. I mean, it really is. You have all of these characters that really are characters or members of a party, for those that have played Dungeons and Dragons. And you have all of these things, these accoutrements, shall we say, to go on this quest.
Yeah, they acquire objects and whatnot.
Exactly.
It's like I almost expect them to open up, like an inventory list of all the things that and if actually I think in the book they do.
And I think
oh god, yeah, especially Rune with his magical. He, unlike a lot of people of his level of position and authority, he has a very limited set of magical items. So you're absolutely right. I actually have a sheet that I have on every scene that talks about his inventory,
right? Because
it's the amount of spells, for instance, he can store is so limited that I actually kind of almost like plan it like a D&D campaign.
Right. And then there's Brand's stuff. I loved the way you described him doing this and doing that. And he has a pocket for this and a pocket for that. And then, oh my God, there's a pocket for that. So
Yeah, I actually did do research on that too. There are all sorts of websites out there on tactical clothing. Some of the internet, all you have to do is ask a question, and you're amazed what you get hit with.
Exactly. Well, this was
the thing that, especially around featuring gay characters, and it's been an experience trying to figure out. Again, I don't want this to be considered gay science fiction. I want this to be science fiction that happens to have gay characters. And when I first rolled this out, I'm part of a writing group, and it's filled with a very diverse group of people, but I'm the only gay person on the group. So to have other writers, especially the straight males in the group, who've never really read any fiction with gay characters, read my story and see how they were reacting to it, that was an eye-opener. That was the first time I'd realized that I'd been pigeonholing myself. I'd been marginalizing myself. I didn't trust the reader to find the story through the fact that one of the main characters was gay. And indeed they did. I mean, the way they connected with Rune completely bowled me over. I just would not have expected it. If anything, a lot of the straight men who read it actually seemed to feel very protective of Rune.
Oh, really? Wow, that's
interesting. Cool. Rune Schmoon, give me Brand.
Brand is the funnest person to write.
Oh my God,
I love that guy.
What I want to say in meetings and on the street and in too long lines at the grocery store, and when someone cuts me off in traffic, he's my voice.
Okay, well,
absolutely. And
now this brings the question. I asked this of every single writer that we talk to. And of course, each of these characters, they are uniquely different that we've come across, to the point where I could almost hear different voices in my head as I was reading it. So as you, the author, are these characters now fully realized in your head? Do they speak to you, or do they guide you? Like if they were really there in the room with you as you are writing.
You have no idea. I told you that I'm a very comprehensive outliner, and I have, for the entire tarot sequence, I have well over 300,000 words in brainstorming notes for the rest of the series, and about 20% of them are Brand one-liners. They're literally the things that happen during the day where all of a sudden I hear Brand speaking in the back of my head. I just stop and I write it down because it's going to be a perfect line in a scene someday.
And I can't repeat any of those.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one in particular I cannot repeat unless we get an explicit tag. And I think we all know which one I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's the beginning of a chapter, and it's like, holy crap. I literally dropped the book. I was in a store. Well, actually, I was at a dealership having my car worked on, and there was all these people around, and I hit this one part. Keith kept saying, wait till you get to this one section. And I got to it, and I literally started convulsing because it was either that or I just fall on the floor laughing out loud hysterically because of the context of the situation.
Exactly.
Oh, I can't repeat it.
Oh, it's going to be one of my favorite stories forever to say that the first line that people quoted back to me was one of Brand's swears.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Exactly. Well,
it's epic.
Yeah. And he is so snarky.
I love him,
Brand.
I love him, and one of the things that just, now we're deep geeking. Let's be real. We are now deep geeking on this book. The relationships that you have created are just beautiful in this book. I mean, despite the fact that there's this very bizarre, almost antagonistic banter between Rune and Brand, I mean, oh my God, these two guys really, I mean, their relationship that they have is beyond description.
Yeah, it's a joy to write them. Any scene that doesn't have the two of them together is always a scene that I dread approaching and getting through, because the way they play off each other, you say at some point you hear them in your head, and those two, I think that one of the best compliments I ever had is one of the other people in my writing group said that they could sit there and listen to Rune and Brand recite tax code. They could read a phone book and find value in the conversation, because they do. They play off each other. They've known each other from the crib. I mean, right. Brand is bonded to Rune. He's what we call in this world a companion with a capital C, and he's human. He was a human child. Designed to be Rune's lifelong bodyguard. And this was in the days when Rune was wealthy and he had a court around him. And part of the whole arc of the story is that, years ago, Rune's court fell and he's now essentially a fallen prince but he still has Brand with him, and the two just know each other like the back of their hands. And I wanted their relationship to be caustic and funny, but also at the heart of it, just incredibly loyal and, moments of genuine affection. I mean, these are two people who could not walk the world without each other.
No.
Exactly.
And just writing them because of that it's definitely one of the deepest relationships I've ever created in a novel. That's for sure.
Yeah. There's several scenes that really give you that.
Oh, they give you the feels.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there are several. I mean, yeah, I just kept looking at these two thinking, wow, it's beautiful. I mean, yes, you dig beneath the surface of the snark that is there, but you see these two guys really have affection feels like an understatement.
That is exactly what I want people to get from this story.
It really does.
Having you guys say this is what I set out to do, and you're making me feel like I accomplished it. So you guys, thank you very much for that.
I mean, they love each other. I mean, it's all there is to it. I mean, they love each other, but they're not a couple in the traditional sense. But
I think
boy, do they love each other.
Early reviews I got from someone else who read an advance copy was, they said that it's a celebration of all forms of male love. And I thought that was kind of a cool line.
That's a good line.
I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it is. There are different types of relationships in this story, and different characters react to each other in different ways. Rune and Brand are the heart of my story. They're the heart of everything I have planned for the rest of the series. But it's rewarding when other people see what I had hoped they would see when I created them.
Right. So it's just a fascinating story, and we can't talk about it without
really
giving anything away.
Spoiling.
It's just like, oh my God.
I know, because there's just so much here.
We'll do that after the interview.
Yeah. Well, when the interview's over, then we'll talk privately. Yeah, off the record. So how long were you? Because you said, I guess you went through a lot of rewrites on this. How long from the moment of inception to completion?
Well, I didn't do rewrites on this. This is actually this is a first draft for the most. Well, not a first draft, but I had written other books. I practiced on other stories and other storylines before I set to actually create the tarot. I called it the tarot accounts. For years, it was the tarot accounts in my head, but the publisher had changed it to the tarot sequence. But so this isn't a rewrite. This is the novel as it's kind of always existed in my head. The other novels I will not talk about. Like I said, they are buried in the back of a drawer somewhere.
Yeah, but you've also written something else that I picked up before we actually even talked. Because I wanted to see, are you somebody that we wanted to talk to? I mean, we do that, and thank God what I read, it was, what was it in an anthology?
My writing group, as just a kind of a fun exercise, created a world together, and self-published an anthology set in that world. And one of my stories in it the story from me was called The Grasshopper Song.
Yeah, I really loved that. It was a great little short story. It was, yeah.
Yeah, the novel, the anthology is called Doom Days.
Yes.
I definitely at some point want to go back to those characters, though. I had a lot of fun because it's a post-apocalyptic world. That's another genre I absolutely adore. There's, such room for creativity in something like that. And I will definitely go back to that story someday.
Yeah, well, I hope so, because I really liked that story, and it left me wanting more, because I could see that there was more to come, shall we say.
One of the things that has, I think, got me to this point is the fact that I'm a member of a really good writing group. We call ourselves the Writer's Cramp, and we've been together for years now. And membership kind of comes and goes, but a core team has been there for quite a while. And the ability to kind of invest yourselves long-term in people's writing, to get immediate feedback on what you're writing, it leveled me up as a writer. Oh. And so that was the group that we created that anthology together, just as a fun exercise, and also to see what self-publishing would be like on Amazon. So That was a good experience.
Yeah. Well, I picked it. I haven't read any of the other stories, but I read yours specifically in hopes of being able to see what it was that you have written before. Do I like your style of writing? Is it something interesting? And then then I contacted you, and of course I was immediately invested in what you had to do. We were ready to talk to you before we even read the advanced reading copy. So
I know.
that was a cool thing to come up with.
Yeah, and then halfway through the book, I'm like, oh, I want to talk to him now.
Yeah. So
I want to talk to you. I wanted to talk to you right away because, wow. I mean,
yeah, there's nothing a writer likes hearing more than that.
I
like
know
the moments that really make you want to put down the book and go talk to someone about it. God knows I love those moments when I read other authors' stuff. So knowing that people are doing that with my work is a bit mind blowing.
yeah.
Well, Keith, because Keith's job, he has greater flexibility at times with his job than I do with mine. Mine's a bit more rigid.
I work from home, so
and I only get to work from home a little bit. So he had more flexibility. So he was able to get through the book a lot faster than I could. So he was already finished when I was like about a quarter of the way in, and all he could say
you
was
were in 5 pages because you kept falling asleep.
Well, because it was late at night. I was tired. It was not easy.
Anyway, when he finally
you're right. I throw you into this novel. The first 2 novels literally begin mid dialogue. Because I remember starting it, I'm thinking, you never know where to start sometimes. And I was just staring at that screen. And then I finally said, to hell with it. I'm literally going to start in the middle of a line of dialogue. And that's going to be my thing.
Well, why not?
Well, it could be a good gimmick.
Yeah. So tell us what is in store, because this, dear listeners, this book isn't out yet. So tell us about that and when it's coming out so that they can go buy it. Pre-order. And because I know because Jeannie says pre-orders are absolutely gold to writers.
Oh, absolutely. Keep in mind, this is an entirely new experience for me. I have no prior experience in publishing to know what's normal and what's not normal. I know that my publisher takes care of most of those details, and they've just been incredible to work with. Everything, like I said, working with the editor, Brini Sayers, was just an exceptional experience. Working with the illustrator, that was the only thing that really worried me about getting published. For some reason, the only thing that I dreaded was the cover. It just seemed to me that all this time you put it in a novel, what if the cover is awful? And yet it turned out to be one of the best experiences of my life.
Oh, I love the cover.
The author is Micah Epstein, and it's just the experience blew me away. His, the ability to collaborate with him, to let him know what was important for me, and for him to take it and represent it faithfully, so that the characters match exactly what was in my head, but also to create his own metaphor with the broken stained glass sun tarot card image in the background,
right?
Applying his own metaphor, which meshed perfectly with the story. It just a mind-blowingly awesome experience.
That's cool. So when does the book release?
June 12th is when it releases.
And that can be found. Ben's looking it up.
It can be found on Amazon.
Found on Amazon. Where else?
Yeah, it's a pre-order on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, independent booksellers. I have some buy links on my main webpage. It's the pub date is barreling in on me.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just that, but your next book is available for a pre-order as well, The Hanged Man.
Well, I don't know. I didn't even know it was available for pre-order. I don't know when the actual pub date is. It says September, but
September 18th to be precise.
Yeah, I can't. I haven't really figured that part out yet, that they're actually going to publish it within several months of the first book. But I do know that I'm almost done with the manuscript, and they've already received the first big, huge 1/3 chunk of it, and I've got a great feedback from them. The second novel has just been a joy to write. Yeah. It's been as painless as anything I've ever written in my life. Yeah. But you are right. The series is planned. It is I've always envisioned it as a 9-book series with 3 separate, distinct story arcs. And one of the main mysteries of the whole story is when Rune was 15 years old, his throne was destroyed, and they've never caught who did it. They never caught who killed his father and basically destroyed the Sun Throne. And one of the things in the novel, and I don't know if you picked up on this, I try to be subtle in some cases, but Rune is not always a reliable narrator. There's something he's keeping from the reader.
Oh, yes.
And I am
Absolutely.
very deliberate at how I'm pacing those revelations. And the first 3 novels are the reader finding out what Rune is keeping from them, the big mystery around
Yeah,
what he
that was
knew.
one of the things.
It was
We
like-
talked about that in private. We have some ideas.
Yeah, but
I will
it's
never breathe a hint of that. That's because that is
well,
the art
it's
of the first
integral
3
to the
novels.
storytelling. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
So-
yeah, exactly.
And then I'm hoping that 3 novels after that is going to be more Rune finding out things he did not know about that night, and how it ties into the larger threat that Atlantis is going to face. And then the last 3 novels are hopefully pure endgame. And I know, each novel has its own flavor, whether it be a mystery or some sort of quest, as we talk about in D&D language. And I know exactly what I want to happen in every novel. I know who the main characters are. I'm laying the groundwork for some of the mysteries that happen in the future, even now in the first novel. I have a very good idea where I want to take this series. So, as good a reaction as I can get to the first 2 novels will hopefully give me that opportunity.
Cool. Well, man,
What do we say next?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just overwhelmed. And yeah, I can't say anything because it would spoil, except, listeners, wow, if you really enjoy a good adventure, and I know we keep referring, we make parallels to like D&D and all that, but that's your review, Keith, was spot on when you call it like a D&D quest. I mean, it really is. This is an adventure, and it is amazing, and it has some of the best characters I've ever read, and one of the greatest mysteries that has just got me on the hook. So, listener, you have to pre-order this book. Find it on
Absolutely.
Amazon. So, Keith, for anybody who wants to know more about the book, where can
I
they?
haven't written a book.
Not you.
Oh.
Keith too.
The 2 easiest ways to reach me, I do have a website. It's www.kd-edwards.com. In the process of rehabilitating parts of it, though it is fitted out now with my cover art, and it's tied to my Twitter account, which is the other easy way to reach out to me. When I started, I began Twitter as I was approaching being a writer, a published writer, when I knew that was on the horizon. So the entire Twitter experience for me has been tied to my literature self. So that is I constantly am, messaging people through that, and it's been a pretty cool experience. But that is KD. Oh, hold on one second. I just changed the name because you know what? When I first created the Twitter account, I had no idea I was creating my Twitter handle when I named it.
Oh.
And because of that, people said, you sound like a Russian bot. Literally, it was KD599999.
Oh, my.
And it made no sense whatsoever. So I've recently changed it. So it's now at KD_Edwards_NC.
Oh my word. Okay.
Yeah, so this has been really great. Please, everybody that's listening, go pre-order this book or buy it when it comes out. You will not be.
You won't be sorry.
Will not be sorry.
You won't regret it. This is one of the, like I said, it really is one of the finest things I've ever read.
You guys have made my day.
Well, Keith, thank you for being on the show with us this time.
Thank you. This is KD Edwards, author of the Tarot Sequence series, and you're listening to The Two Gay Geeks.
It's always such a treat to talk to him. I mean,
Always.
And that was such a far-ranging episode. That was in the days before we were
On Krypton.
constrained by the Krypton Radio
Yeah.
1-hour time slot. So
So it's a
that's
good thing
why-
you're also rerunning this episode because the people who listen to us on
Exactly.
Krypton Radio, now they'll have an opportunity to hear that interview for the first time.
Exactly. And here's a few selected birthdays for September 28th through October 4th, 2020. September 28th, Ed Sullivan.
Really big shoe.
He made his name actually in the newspaper business as a sports writer and made his way to television, and the rest is history, shall we say.
Indeed.
And he was actually, he had Roberta Peters on his show
Did he really?
67 times.
No way.
Yes, the most of anybody.
Well, I know he helped give the Beatles their huge big break
Oh,
as well
yeah.
as the Rolling Stones. You know, the thing is that he's not, he really wasn't that great of a TV show host, but there was just, his personality was so unique
Yep,
that at
exactly.
that time it made him an icon.
Absolutely. Then we have Thomas Scrapper.
3 guesses what he's famous for.
He's a plumber and patent holder for many improvements to sanitary systems. September 29th, Madeline Kahn.
Oh, my God.
The Wrath of Madeline.
Yes.
Yes. My gosh, she was such a brilliant, brilliant comedian.
And what a singer.
God. Oh, my gosh.
She had a lovely voice.
Incredible.
I mean, it was a loss when she died.
And Nicholas Briggs, a voiceover actor and writer. He's written a number of Doctor Who stories and is the current voice of the Daleks and Cybermen and several others.
Yeah, his contributions to modern Who is really wow.
Yeah, and he one of his quotes, I didn't write it down, but he said that one would think that it would be easy to write a Doctor Who show.
No, it's not.
But it's not. He said it's very difficult.
It's very difficult
to get it right.
As evidenced by the last couple of seasons of Doctor Who. Oh, did I just say that?
Yes, you did with your outside voice.
I'm sorry. My Tourette's is showing.
Yes. And then we have former co-worker of mine, Kate Hanselman. Happy birthday, Kate. September 30th, Angie Dickinson, actress. She was in Dressed to Kill and Policewoman. Mm-hmm. That's where she kind of made her name and was married to Burt Bacharach at one time.
I saw her on the Dinah Shore show, and she actually, she was talking about her divorce with Burt, and she just like, oh, Burt and I are the best of friends. Everybody should get divorced.
And she lived in Beverly Hills, and one of her neighbors was Ira Gershwin.
Oh.
She played poker with him for over 3 decades.
Wow, that's a long game.
Exactly. And then we have a former classmate of yours, Jackie Taryn Rankel.
I know she was a big listener to us on Slice of Sci-Fi, and I'm hoping she's listening to us here.
I think she is.
I think she is. I hope she is. Please let us know if you still are.
Yeah. October 1st, Julie Andrews, actress, singer.
Oh, my God.
Dame Julie Andrews. Married to Blake Edwards. She had a 5-octave range with perfect pitch.
I know. The woman, before her voice went out, she had such talent. I mean, we were just watching Victor Victoria the other night, and during all that jazz, she does this slur from this low note, goes up like 3 or 4 octaves, and I cannot hear a register break in her voice. It just goes from deep chest to upper head, and it's like, wow.
And as always, after we listen to Victor Victoria, for weeks, I have songs going through my head.
Yeah, me too.
The Shady Day.
Oh, by the way, did you know you actually started that in the exact same key?
Oh, really?
Yes, you did. Very
cool.
Good. I'm impressed.
And she was friends with Carol Burnett. Very good friends with Carol Burnett. They used to do shows together.
We previously watched the movie a couple of years ago, and I was just so enamored with the music, I ended up buying the soundtrack and listened to it again and again and again and again on an endless loop because I just love the music.
Yep. She actually turned down her Tony nomination for Victor Victoria, the stage play that they did, because the rest of the cast was overlooked.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, she's amazing.
Yep. October 2nd, Mike Rutherford, guitarist.
Hang on.
What?
Where's the rest of October 1st?
Where did I do? That was October 1st. Oh.
Yeah.
Oops.
Whoops.
Oh,
wow.
Big oops. Big oops. Well, here we go. Also on October 1st, before I scrolled all the way down, we have one of our writers, Andrea Richoff.
That's right.
Keeping things going for us.
Thankfully.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. Happy birthday. And Monica Demis.
Oh, my God. Fabulous filmmaker.
And Jeff George, a friend of ours. I met Jeff probably just right after we met at
shortly after. It was the TARDIS party. It was the Halloween TARDIS party.
Yeah.
Yep.
At Scotty Reiniker's.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then my brother-in-law,
your favorite brother-in-law,
John Hill. Well, I wouldn't say favorite brother-in-law. Maybe, favorite brother-in-law.
Yeah, your favorite brother-in-law.
Yeah. Yep. And then October 2nd, Mike Rutherford, guitarist,
bass player as well,
and he formed Genesis with Peter Gabriel and Tony Banks when they were all at boarding school. They were 15.
Yeah, they were 15 years old. There's another one that's missing out of that group.
Right.
Anthony Phillips.
Right, but and then there was Phil Collins.
Yeah, well, Phil came later. He went to public school.
Yep.
He came much later on.
And then What's his name?
Steve Hackett.
Steve Hackett. There we go. Gosh.
Yeah. Steve
My
Hackett.
brain.
Steve Hackett replaced Anthony Phillips.
Yep. And then we have Facebook friend and friend of ours, Ray Schillaci. He is with the movie guys. And Stellar Miller. October 3rd, Denis Villeneuve. Director, Blade Runner 2049. Dune. All-time favorite film is 2001.
The guy's he really is an artist, I think, on the visual medium.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what he does with this new Dune film.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical because it's that is a hard movie to adapt.
Right.
But I'll be very interested to see what he does with
we've
it.
been trying to work an angle to try to get an interview with him. I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
It may not, but
it
we can
would
still
be
try.
wonderful to talk to him.
Yeah.
And then we have Lindsey Buckingham, another guitarist.
Brilliant guitarist, by the way.
Yep.
Very talented.
Yep. October 4th, Reggie Lee, actor. He was Sergeant Wu in Grimm.
We talked to him on Slice of
in the
Sci-Fi.
Slice
That's
days.
right.
And he was actually a backup dancer for Prince.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we have Sam Johnson, who is the creator of Geek Girl
That's right.
comics. And that's it for the birthdays this time.
Technorama, the podcast for geeks, because geeks are better than cool. You don't hear someone say, "Get away from me, you cool person." Who's gonna have their 65-inch home theater system installed by the Cool Squad?
Not me.
That's for sure. How much cool cred do you have? Not enough to care about. Think you'll find any canned unicorn meat at thinkcool.com? It's just a part domain name. They don't even have roadkill in a paper cup.
Actually, it's
That's
real now.
why you need to start listening to Technorama, because that's what geeks do. Go to chuckchat.com and listen to Technorama
Before you turn cool. Go give a listen to our friends, Chuck and
Did you just
Craig.
tickle yourself?
I did. Just us talking over the...
Well, Chuck seems to enjoy it when we
He
do that.
does.
He gets a kick.
He said he almost wrecked the car the first time we did it.
Yeah.
Anyway, go give a listen to our friends Chuck and Craig over at Technorama Podcast.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counsellors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
Got to make this quick because we just have minutes left. Because that was a long interview with Katie
It
Edwards.
was.
It was. So anyway,
But it was good.
But it was a great interview. Anyway, all of this, this one article that we're going to get feedback from, will be in the show notes for this episode at tggeeks.com, and it's all about regarding Ben's breakdown. Out of Body delivers fun and ghostly goodness, and we got comment from
What
its
a
2
fun
stars.
film.
I love that movie, and I love their 2 stars deeply. These 2 guys are just the most awesome. First from Jason T. Gaffney, who we've actually interviewed on the show several times. He left this comment on Instagram, and he gave us 3 little hearts and says, "Thank you so much for this lovely review. I hope you're staying safe and sane during these crazy times. Many hugs to the both of you." And then we got a comment from his co-star, Kevin Held. I love this guy. I really do. I would love to interview him someday because the man is just nuts. He says, "Thanks, Ben, for the rave review of our film, premiering tomorrow night as a drive-in screening at Cinema Diverse Festival in Palm Springs." That was actually back on the 11th. But anyway, that is the feedback we have for this week at tggeeks.com.
And if you want to leave a comment, you can do that on our Facebook page, on Twitter, or tggeeks.com, or Instagram, like Jason did. Or you can call our listener feedback line, like Pia did a couple of weeks ago. Call 469-TGGeeks. That is 469-844-3357. And as always, please play nice. We're huge supporters of independent creators, filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others, please support them. Go to their Etsy pages, their Facebook pages, their Twitter, Instagram, their web pages. Please support them. Talk to other people about their stuff. Talk to them. Please consider supporting independent creators. Joshua Tree Feeding Program, 501c3 nonprofit food pantry for the HIV/AIDS community in Maricopa and Pinal counties. Please consider supporting them during these tough times. You can give a singular gift or a monthly recurring gift at jtfp.org. If you are trans or are questioning your gender identity, and if you are in crisis or are feeling isolated and need someone to talk to, or you know of someone in a similar situation, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to translifeline.org to learn about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help. You are not alone.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
And now's the time where I'm going to go over the things that we ran on our website at tggeeks.com.
Not yet.
Not yet?
No. We're in the second segment.
Oh, shit. Whoops.
You can't say shit on the air.
What? Well, it's better than an F-bomb on a Disney cruise ship.
Yeah, exactly. That's
sure
a story for another time.
Yeah.
No, probably in the next week or so, we're going to be doing kind of a wrap-up. We're about ready to finish Eureka and Warehouse 13 on our rewatch.
Yeah, we're going to try and finish those at the same time.
Yeah, so that we can talk about them on the show.
Now. Wow. Sorry for the premature exhibition there, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, these are the articles that we ran on our website at tggeeks.com, starting with Sunday, September 20th, Nerdy Chupacabras, number 14, on Monday the 21st, TG Geeks episode number 292, on Tuesday the 22nd, LA Shorts world premiere, Wichita, a comedy about modern marriage and betrayal, on Wednesday the 23rd, and yes, available on demand October 5th, and yes is a movie.
Yes.
So, on Thursday the 24th, Andrew's Angle, a quirky offbeat heist will make you a cajillionaire. On Friday the 25th, new sushi number 103. Hey, it's another new sushi. Thank you, Hamish. Morsels of news from Japan and beyond. And we close off the week Saturday, September 26th. Spooky season is here with Halloween 4 and 5, Trick or Treat, and Tales from the Dark Side merch. Available now at frightrags.com. And it's time to go over a couple of shout-outs here. These are things that ran our articles at various places. Starting off with the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News, which is put up by the human Arkle, Brian Weber. You can find the Post-Dispatch News by finding him on Twitter. Do that by going to Twitter and search for Arkle at ARKLE. And he's also on YouTube. He has his Arkle Studios. And you can go there going to youtube.com/Arkle Studios. Brian has a number of projects, his Shameless Cash Grab series, his Rants vs. Zombie series. Yes?
He actually has a new one as of
series?
Yesterday.
Which one is it?
Shameless Cash Grab Season 5, Episode 2.
There you go.
Boss of Big Town. There we go.
Oh, very nice.
I guess I missed one.
Whoops. Oh, you did. Oh, well. And he also has his game videos of Trick and Treat as well as Star Trek Online. We must also give some shout-outs to a couple of Facebook groups for allowing us to post our episodes and relevant articles on their pages. First, Two Gay Geeks After Hours. We must give thanks to the moderators by literally saying that we can share away our stuff. The URL is facebook.com/groups/Gay Geeks After Hours, and as also to The Gay Geek for the same. The URL is facebook.com/The Gay Geek, and we must give special thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And we can be found on Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Krypton Radio, 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays. Listen to their other content. They are a 24-hour geeky internet radio station. And remember to rate us and review us on iTunes. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can leave feedback as well as listen to it while you surf on your device. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page of things we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and to those around you. Take care, stay safe, stay sane. Peace.
Cheers.